Hey there, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something really foundational. If you're a high school student, maybe thinking about a future in teaching, psychology, or even just curious about how communities tick, you are exactly in the right place. We're jumping right into Chapter 7, which is titled Working with Families of Young Children with Disabilities. Our main goal here is to really understand how the relationship between schools and these families has changed over time, and honestly, how we can all be much better partners today.
Okay, let's take a quick look at our agenda. We'll start with a history of family engagement, then move into frameworks for partnership. After that, we'll cover the family systems model, and finally, wrap up with the impact on family members.
Section 1. A history of family engagement, from exclusion to partnership. Now, to really grasp where we are today, we have to look back at some pretty dark history. Have you ever heard of the eugenics movement? Well, it was this deeply flawed, actually very dangerous historical belief that so-called unfit people would just have unfit children. It was a completely baseless idea, but it spread, and it heavily stigmatized individuals with disabilities and their entire families. Just speaking plainly here, society basically looked at these families with suspicion or even shame, and you can imagine that created a massive brick wall between families and early educational programs. So it's a history of serious exclusion that we've had to work incredibly hard to overcome.
And this timeline brilliantly illustrates that struggle. If you look at relationships pre-1990s, they were often super antagonistic and adversarial. Basically, public schools thought of themselves as the undisputed experts. Families, well, they were just expected to passively blend into the whole American melting pot, rejecting their own cultural ways and just quietly taking the school's word as law. Parents felt totally misunderstood, and schools thought parents should just listen to the experts without questioning them. But then, enter the 1990s. With major laws like the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, things shifted into an era of working partnerships. Parents were finally being recognized as real assets, even if getting to full empowerment was a bit bumpy. Which brings us to today. The goal now is parent empowerment. It is a complete paradigm shift. We're talking equal partners, mutual respect, and genuine collaboration.
Section 2. Frameworks for Partnership, Building the Bridge Between Home and School.
So how exactly do modern educational systems build that kind of trust today? Well, there's a concept from a famous psychologist, Yuri Bronfenbrenner, called the mesosystem. I know, it's a big academic word, but just think of it like a bridge. The mesosystem is this absolutely crucial bridge connecting a child's home life with their school life, their doctors, and their whole community. For example, say a kid with a disability is getting speech therapy at a clinic, going to preschool, and living at home with their grandparents. The mesosystem is basically how well those three different worlds talk to each other. When we build strong linkages across that bridge, the child's outcomes improve drastically. It's a real game changer.
Let's see how this actually looks in the real world, using Epstein's 6 types of family involvement. Dr. Joyce Epstein laid out a roadmap for how schools can act a lot more like a supportive extended family. I want you to just take a second and think about your own high school. What makes it feel welcoming? Or maybe not so welcoming? According to Epstein's model, a school really hits the mark when they do 6 things. Support parenting skills, keep two-way communication flowing, offer flexible ways to volunteer, share ideas for learning at home, actually bring parents into decision-making, and collaborate with the whole community. When a school nails all 6 of these, families of kids with disabilities finally feel seen and valued, like true partners.
Let's zoom in on that communicating piece for a second. Schools literally have to communicate in ways that fit a family's real life. Look at these 3 methods. An email is fantastic because, hey, it leaves a written record, right? But the drawback? Tone is so easily misunderstood. A phone call is great for immediate feedback, but it's incredibly hard to coordinate timing with parents who work all day. And texting? It reaches them instantly, but you really don't have space to explain much. So what's the takeaway if you want to be a future educator? There is absolutely no single best method. You just have to adapt to what the family actually needs.
Okay, let's hit the pause button for a second. Think about your own home. How does one child change an entire family dynamic? Seriously, when a new baby arrives, or maybe an older sibling leaves for college, or even when someone just gets sick, the whole vibe of the house shifts, doesn't it? Keep that in mind. It's the perfect mental reset as we zoom out from the school building and head straight into the living room.
Section 3. The Family Systems Model, Zooming into the Living Room.
Now, what's really interesting about this model is that to truly partner with these families, we have to realize that a family is not just a random group of people living under the same roof. No way. It's a highly dynamic, bidirectional system. Literally every single member influences all the others. The family systems model breaks this down into 6 interconnected pieces. You've got boundaries, like how much outside influence does the family let in. Then there are roles, who plays the caretaker, who is the peacekeeper. You also have rules, hierarchy, and climate. Is the home environment warm and secure, or is it kind of cold and stressed? And finally, equilibrium, which is just the family's natural sense of balance. If even one of those elements shifts, the entire system has to adjust so it doesn't fall over.
Let's make this super relatable. Think about the unwritten rules and hierarchies in your own family. Who actually calls the shots? Who signs the permission slips? Who holds the real authority? And what are the hidden scripts you guys follow when someone gets mad or upset? Every family has its own completely unique culture. As an educator working with a young kid who has a disability, you have to be highly sensitive to these unwritten rules, and absolutely crucial here. Never judge a family just because their hierarchy looks a little different from yours.
Section 4. Impact on family members. The bidirectional ripple effect.
All right, so let's take everything we just learned about that delicate, spinning family system and look at what happens when a major stressor hits. Specifically, getting the diagnosis of a disability or delay for a young child. Under normal circumstances, families go through a typical life cycle, right? You have coupling, having kids, raising toddlers, eventually launching teenagers out into the real world, and then the senior years. There's a natural rhythm to it. But when a child is diagnosed with an exceptionality, it can completely interrupt that balance. Suddenly, a family that's just trying to navigate the early childhood phase is thrust into this complex world of finding medical services, sitting through intense education meetings, and dealing with social stigmas. It creates massive transitional stress.
And because of all that stress, parents will often go through some very specific stages of reaction. In the primary phase, there's usually denial or grief. They're basically mourning that typical path they originally pictured for their child. Then comes the secondary phase, and things get a bit messy here. There's emotional disorganization, guilt, and maybe even anger or shame. But eventually they reach the tertiary phase. This is where adaptation and reorganization happen, and they start setting new, beautiful goals for their family. Understanding this step-by-step emotional journey, it is absolutely essential for building genuine empathy as an educator.
So, the crucial point here is that even under the exact same roof, caregivers might process this whole new reality in completely different ways. Research shows that mothers, who historically often take on the primary caregiving role, are really at risk for the intense stress of added daily responsibilities. Fathers, on the other hand, are sometimes found to be much more focused on the long-term stuff, like the future consequences and long-term stability for their child. Both of these reactions are completely valid, but they definitely require different types of support from the community.
And hey, we absolutely cannot forget about the kids sharing the back seat. The sibling experience is incredibly profound. Having a brother or sister with a disability can for sure cause stress. Sometimes, siblings might even feel a little overlooked as the whole family system reorganizes around the child's needs. But the research also points out something truly amazing. This experience frequently turns siblings into highly empathetic, fiercely active, lifelong advocates. They end up developing this level of tolerance and understanding of diversity that is just remarkable.
Which brings us to our final thought for today. If every family is this delicate, interconnected system, experiencing their own unique rules, roles, and life cycles, how can our schools be the best possible partners to keep them in balance? How do we move past those historical barriers of exclusion and actually empower parents? That's really the question at the very heart of empathy in education. I hope this explainer of Chapter 7 has given you a totally new perspective on the incredible families in your community. Keep asking great questions, keep building those bridges, and thank you so much for learning with us today.